Morten, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jonas. Good to be here again.
Yeah, great. As you know, I'm running an MSP, and we're always looking for various tools to optimize the way we spend our time. So do you have anything for me on that note?
I definitely have something. Maybe we should take a look at it. It's called EasyEntra, and it's a support tool. It's a first-level support tool, so anything that has to do with management of users, mailboxes, licenses, group management, it can handle that for you.
Okay, but you know, Morten, in my MSP, it's very difficult to hire and get qualified IT staff. People that know something about Microsoft 365, it's difficult to find those guys, and it's difficult to retain them.
Right.
So I need something that I can use for my junior IT guys to kind of ramp them up to the next level.
You're gonna love this tool,
Do you have
Jonas.
something like that?
Yeah, you're gonna love this. It's very easy and to use and kind of self-explaining. I would say any level support guy can pick this up and immediately go to work. But let's have a look at the tool firsthand and let's see what you think about it.
Yeah, great.
Okay, Jonas, I'm on a Windows 11 PC here. You can install EasyEntra to Windows 10, Windows 11, or you can install to a server, Windows 2019 or later. To get started with EasyEntra, you can go to our webpage. On the webpage, you'll find a download section. And here it's a very short form. You need to fill that out and click on the button, and that will lead you to the download page of the software. In this page, just before downloading the software, please note there's also an installation and configuration guide. It's quite a simple document. It's 15 pages, and it has all of the technical information about the tool, how it's working, what are the concepts, what permissions are needed to interact with the different entities, Active Directory, Entra ID, Exchange Online, Microsoft Entra Connect. So obviously you would need access to these entities. And then also some operational notes, just how to get the most out of the tool. But I have already downloaded the installation file. I have it here. I'm going to run that. And as you see, it's a flat exe, completely standard application installation. There are no services needed. There are no service accounts or anything like that. It's a basic installation. Okay, so with the installation taken care of, I'm going to fire up EasyEntra, the EasyEntra application. And as you see in the starting section here, the connection manager, to get started, you need to connect with either one or more Active Directories and or one or more Entra IDs. So you can work pure ID management in EasyEntra, you can work in pure cloud management, and you can also add both your on-prem AD and your tenant, and that will allow you to do a complete hybrid management from one console here.
So this tool is multi-tenant capable.
That's correct. You can actually you cannot only add any number of tenants to the tool, but you can also, if you have the connectivity, you can add any number of Active Directories. So if you have like a tree structure with different domains, or if you're an MSP that have network connectivity with your clients' domain controllers, you could actually add multiple domains and manage them side by side.
So basically I could manage all my customers from this tool.
You definitely could do that, yes.
Okay, great. Let's see how it works.
Alright, so I'm going to configure a connection with my Active Directory. I'm going to type in the name of my domain controller. It's going to reach out, add it, and as you can see, there is also an Entra Connect server configured, which is my synchronization server. If it's not the correct server name, you can change it, but usually it will try to guess and hit the right name here. So this is the connectivity of your Active Directory. Then we have the tenant connectivity. In the connectivity to your tenant, you have three options. You can connect to your primary tenant. You basically use this to add explicitly the tenant that the account you authenticate with belongs to. If you're working as a consultant, you might have delegated access to multiple tenants. Then you can select that option. That will give you a list of all the tenants that your account has access to, and then you can add the ones that you want inside the tool. And finally, if you're a Microsoft partner like you, then you can select the partner tenants, and you can get a list of all your tenants, and you can add the ones that you want to manage inside the tool. So for simplicity, we're just going to go with the primary tenant. The authentication here, it's Microsoft Graph and Exchange Online, so there's no third-party application that you need to trust. You only need to trust the basic APIs from Microsoft, the Microsoft Graph PowerShell API and the Exchange Online REST API. Also, if you're hosted in GCC or GCC High, you can change the environment here. So we're gonna do the authentication.
Okay. Will you know any of my credentials, usernames and passwords?
It's a good question, and the answer is definitely not. This is, as you may recognize, it's standard OAuth 2 authentication, so it's exactly the same type of authentication that you use when you log into the admin centers, or when you do Exchange Online PowerShell, or if you do Microsoft Graph PowerShell. So the authentication, it takes place completely between you and Microsoft, and this actually goes for all of the management that you do with the tool. Everything is happening between you, the application, and directly to the Microsoft cloud environment. There's no information about users or settings or anything that's transferred across to our location.
All right.
So Microsoft Graph authentication is in place. We're going to do the same with Exchange Online. Of course, if you have multi-factor authentication, or if you have FIDO2 access keys or PIM or anything like that, it's fully acknowledged by the application. So the tenant is ready for management, the domain is ready for management, and this means you can now go to the on-prem AD section, and what you see here is probably something you'll recognize. It's the OU structure of my domain.
Yeah, it looks like AD uses computers.
It does, and that's no coincidence. We're big fans of AD users and computers. It's been around for, well, a lot more than 2 decades actually. Hasn't really changed the comma during that period. It's an interface that many people are familiar with. It's also an interface that we think makes great sense from a user perspective, because it's easy to navigate it, and it's quite intuitive to go and look up whatever you want to look up in that environment.
Okay.
So we have a bunch of users here. If you want to manage your user, everything look and feel, it's like 80 users and computers. You can open up the user account by double-clicking. You have the menus here on the left-hand side. You might recognize the titles. It's the same tabs that you have on top of the user account in 80 users and computers. So if you're used to that environment, then you can also navigate this quite easily. Instead of the tabs shuffling around when you click them, they stay fixed on the left-hand side here, so it's easy to move around and get to the settings that you want to change.
Okay, so this is basically the same information from AD users' computers.
It's exactly,
and then,
yeah.
And then you have added more information from the cloud.
Exactly, yes. It consolidates the information from your Active Directory with the information in your Entra ID cloud environment, and also with the information in your Exchange Online environment. Everything meshed together in one interface, a small, quite intuitive interface, and you can navigate all of that information easily. So as you mentioned, the first tabs here, it's basic AD configuration. When you get to the Groups tab, something starts to happen, because you can not only see your Active Directory group membership, but you can also see your Entra ID group membership. And this means you don't need to do the constant switching of environments to manage one thing in AD, and then you need to go to the Azure portal or Microsoft 365 Admin Center to manage cloud group memberships. You can do all of it from one place. And
okay, we have some first level guys here, and they often complain about changing email addresses or added email aliases. It's difficult to find out where you change that configuration. You have to know the customer, you have to know the environment very well to know if it's this console or is it on premise or whatnot. So if I was a first level user supporter, how could I change, for example, an email alias super fast here?
So it's a good example, because with a hybrid environment you have the challenge of attribute authority. You need to know exactly what environment you need to go to change what. With EasyEntra, you don't need to worry about that, because everything is written into the proper place. So if we look at the email addresses in the mailbox setting, this is where you find the alias and you find the email addresses. If you want to make changes here, let's say you want to switch the mail addresses and create a new email alias, you simply type in the new email alias, and then you can add it for a selected domain. These are all verified domains in my tenant, or you can add it for all of the verified domains. If you want to remove the old email addresses, select them, remove them, and then you can add the new ones. Now something is wrong here, and because I'm not going to be able to apply this, there's a red box. If you hover the address field here, you'll see that you need at least one email address to be set as a primary. And this is a general principle in EasyEntra. We don't want people to be able to apply configurations that are invalid. So instead of generating an error message when applying the settings, we try to enforce the UI so that the user actually has to make a valid configuration in order to be able to move on. So in this case, select a primary SMTP address. Everything is in place here, good to go, and we can apply the configuration. So that's quite easy, and your first level guys, they no longer need to go to Exchange Online Admin Center, try to change the email address of a hybrid user account, get the error message, and then shuffle back to their on-prem environment, in which case they would then have to, with the standard tools from Microsoft, would have to edit the proxy addresses attribute directly, causing potentially a lot of bad things, or you would need to be running an on-premise Exchange server in order to do sort of a managed way of handling the properties. So you can do that from our tool instead.
Oh, okay, that's super cool. Another thing that we hear often is that our first level guys, they complain about when the end users wants to change their calendar permissions. So it's not very easy or convenient for any of our first level guys to change calendar permissions on behalf of the end users. So do you have anything that can help me out here?
Definitely have. You're right, the calendar delegation management, it's quite tedious. Everybody who've been doing that knows that. You need PowerShell to manage it because Microsoft have not provided a central graphical user interface that can be used to manage calendar delegation of users. So we're kind of closing that hole in the mailbox section. If you go to the calendar delegation, you'll have a nice slick UI to manage your calendar permissions. So instead of having to use if you're in an international environment, 5 different PowerShell commands to do simple calendar permission management, you can go and have a quick look what is configured currently. If you need to add something, you can just look up the user, start typing. Maybe you want to add 2 users. You can use the keyboard without having to switch to the mouse all the time, and then select the accounts and grant them whatever permission you want to give them. So this is quite easy. If you select editor permissions, we also have support for configuring the sharing permission flags, and you can set that to delegate or can view private items.
Okay, so let's say I wanted to do this for 5 or 10 users at the same time.
This is also...
Is that possible?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. If you want to make the same calendar configuration on multiple users, you can select multiple users. You can go to the mailbox settings, and everything that's lighted up here is available for bulk editing. Email addresses, you're not going to be able to change that because everybody needs a unique email address. But calendar delegation, you could easily set up the same calendar delegation for multiple users. So whatever you configure here, let's add a couple of users. Then once you apply this, it's going to affect all of the users that you have selected. The same thing can be done with mailbox delegation. You can do it with the mailbox storage, enable archive, litigation hold. You can configure delivery restrictions. You can configure delivery options.
Okay, cool. And I could also change the mailbox. Can I convert it to something else if I needed to for some reason convert it to a shared mailbox?
You definitely can't do that. So let's say these 4 users just left the company. You want to convert them to shared mailboxes. You simply select the users, change the mailbox type, and apply that, and they are all converted.
Okay, and how about licenses in that?
That's also the same thing. You have the license information here. When you configure a new license configuration, it's going to apply to all of the selected users.
Okay, nice.
Thanks.
Nice. Okay, another thing that we have in our company is when we are creating new users. When one of our customers is onboarding a new employee, then we have to create a user all from scratch. And in hybrid environments, that's a bit of a nightmare because you have to move around in a lot of different consoles. You have to do stuff in the local AD, and then sometimes the guys in the first level support, they don't always get it right, so they're not 100% identical, the users that are being created. So that's a big problem, user onboarding, user provisioning.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Jonas. One of the big problems with the onboarding process is it's very complex. You need to visit a lot of different systems to set it up. You also you need a lot of knowledge to do that, and quite often you also need to break up the tasks in portions, because you need to provision the AD user, then you need to synchronize it, maybe wait for that, then you can start creating the mailbox, and then you have to wait for that, and then you can configure the mailbox properties. So it's a broken up process, and actually not very mentally healthy way to be working, and we've tried to make that more pleasant. So as an example, I have a random user here. If we look at the various configuration, we can see there are some group memberships, on-prem group memberships, cloud-only group memberships. We have some licenses assigned. We have a mailbox, and the mailbox has some delegation. There's some calendar delegation in place. Now let's assume that we want to create a user similar to this one. What you do is you right-click the user account, select copy, and basically the only thing you need to do here is to type in the display name. As you see, the first name and last name, it's automatically generated. Also the email address is automatically generated. If we look at this user for comparison, you can also see that the email address automatically uses the same format. So in this case, it's full first name, full last name separated with a dot. So whatever format you have on your email addresses, if you use like the 3 first letters of the first name or any mix of that, then it's going to figure that out, use the same format. So you only need to type in the display name. When you click next, we have some more information we need to create the user. The account information, so we need a user principal name, we need a SAM account name. Again, it looks at the template user, notices that the format is the 2 first letters of the first name, 2 first letters of the last name. So it uses exactly the same format on the account names on the new account, which is quite convenient. With that in place, and I have still only typed in the display name, nothing else. When you click next, you get access to all properties of the hybrid user account. So you can go and take a look at the address information. Everything has been copied across from the original. You can take a look at the profile, that's also been modified and copied, and the manager has been copied across. If you look at the groups, you'll notice that this is also set up like the template user. If you want to make changes, let's say you don't want this new user to be member of one particular group, then you simply remove it, because you can edit all of the information in this interface. Again, with licenses, if you want to make a change here, we have the same licenses assigned, but maybe we want one additional license. You can configure that and move on to mailboxes. If we look at delivery restrictions here, we can see that there is a delivery restriction set up. Maybe we don't want this particular user to be configured, but another user. So you can modify it to make it suit your complete need here. If we look at mailbox delegation, maybe we also don't want the user here. We remove that, click OK. Once you're happy with the configuration, you can modify everything here. Once you're happy with the configuration, you simply hit the create button. The user creation starts. You can put it aside and you can continue to do other work in the tool. So let's say you have another task that you need to modify mailbox permissions of a certain user. You can go and do that in the meanwhile. And let's apply that. So at some point in time, this task is going to complete. It usually takes around 30 seconds, and this is exactly the mark that we hit here. The user has been created. We can close it out, and search out the new user that we just created here. When we go and take a look at the user and, for example, have a look at the groups, you can see that the groups have been copied across both the on-prem groups and the cloud groups. One group is missing, and that's the one that we manually removed because we wanted some minor changes there. If we look at the licenses, you can see that you have the same license, but you also have the one that we added during the configuration. If we go and look at mailboxes, or the mailbox configuration, look at delivery restrictions, you'll see that I made a change here, and that's fully committed. And in mailbox delegation, we also made a minor change, but apart from that, everything is fully committed. So the main takeaway here is that you can provision completely from A to Z hybrid users. You can configure the mailbox, the cloud group memberships, and one big point here is that you can do it all in one work process. So you start copying the user, you configure everything, you hit create, and then you can do something else, and the task will complete.
But let me just understand something here. So this is a hybrid user, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. So in the normal scenario, standard scenario from Microsoft, you have to create that user on premise. You would wait for the synchronization to occur, and then let the synchronization spawn the user in the cloud, and then you'll be able to configure the cloud properties after that synchronization has taken place.
Right.
But what is this? Do I have to wait for the synchronization now in order to use the mailbox or use the?
You don't have to wait. No, immediately when the user has been created, the user can go to work. So you're right, and I know you're a technical guy, so we can discuss the technical things a little bit. You're right that it needs to be synchronized, but actually when we create the hybrid user, we create the cloud entity, we create it directly, and we glue it together with the on-prem account. So this means actually you need to wait out one cycle to see the gluing play out itself in the cloud, but it doesn't matter in relation to the user. The user can go to work immediately. They can open their mailbox and start working. If you want to speed up the gluing process, you have the connection with the Entra Connect, and you can trigger a Delta Sync here. And this means in a couple of seconds, everything will be in the final configuration.
So this basically means that I can spawn new users at any customer site in around 30 seconds.
That's completely right, yes. As long as you add them in EasyEntra, and now we only have one domain here, so you can create the users here. If you have your cloud environment, we have the same functionality here. So if you have a cloud-only user, let's look up a guy here. So we have one user here. We have some various configuration on this user. We have probably some mailbox delegation of some kind. If you want to copy this user, the same thing works in the cloud. You can right-click the cloud user, click copy, type in the username, and just for comparison, I mean, you can complete this in a few seconds if you want to, but just for comparison, again, you see the email address is generated out of the same format as the original one, so you have the first letter of the first name, the full last name. When we move to the cloud, the account information, this is also replicates completely the setup that you have here.
But I could just click next create, right?
You basically just need to paste or write or paste the display name, and if you're sure that everything matches up with what you want, then it's just a matter of clicking next, create, move it to the side, do something else. You can start creating another user now if you want to. You can do some other work inside the tool, and the process here just runs in the background, stays fully responsive, and it's in our humble opinion, it's a really convenient, nice and efficient way to work, and first level guys basically of any level can jump right into this. So for the cloud user here, 20 seconds, it's done.
20 seconds, amazing.
And let's look up the new user account. You have the first name, last name, display name. You have some information copied across here from the other account. You have the organizational information, the same manager. You have the same group memberships. You have the same licenses assigned as the original, and if you go and have a look at the mailbox, you'll see that the delegation has also been copied across. So fully provisioned user in a matter of just a few seconds.
Oh, that's amazing. Great. Great, Morten. Thank you for showing me this.
Sure, no problem, Jonas.
This tool looks amazing. I will definitely try it out in our MSP, and I will let the guys test it. So
do that.
Yeah, excited about that.
Perfect. Yeah, it's, as you saw, it's a super simple installation. Doesn't make any modifications to your infrastructure. So give it a spin, try it out, kick it around, and let me know what you think of it. Hopefully you'll be saving a lot of time.
Yeah, I sure hope so. Well, thank you, Morten. Thank you for showing me this.
No problem. See you later, Jonas.
Talk to you later.
Bye.